Georgia was at the beach with her grandkids when they suddenly pointed toward a nearby cafe. Her heart skipped a beat as they shouted the words that would shatter her world. The couple in the cafe looked exactly like their parents who had died 2 years ago. Grief changes you in ways you never expect. Some days it's a dull ache in your chest. Other days, it blindsides you like a sucker punch to the heart. That summer morning in my kitchen, staring at an anonymous letter, I felt something entirely different. I think it was hope mixed with a little bit of terror. My hands trembled as I read those 5 words again. They're not really gone. The crisp white paper felt like it was burning my fingers. I thought I had been managing my grief, trying to create a stable life for my grandkids, Andy and Peter, after losing my daughter, Monica, and her husband, Stephen. But this note made me realize how wrong I was. They got into an accident 2 years ago. I still remember how Andy and Peter kept asking me where their parents were and when they'd return. It took me so many months to make them understand their mom and dad would never return. It broke my heart as I told them they'd have to manage things on their own now, and that I'd be there for them whenever they needed their parents. After all the hard work I'd put in, I received this anonymous letter that claimed Monica and Stefan were still alive. They're not really gone? I whispered to myself, sinking into my kitchen chair. What kind of sick game is this? I had crumpled the paper and was about to throw it away when my phone buzzed. It was my credit card company alerting me to a charge on Monica's old card. The one I'd kept active just to hold onto a piece of her. How is that even possible? I whispered. I've had this card for 2 years. How can someone use it when it's been sitting in the drawer? I immediately called the bank's customer support helpline. Hello, this is Billy speaking. How may I help you? The customer service representative answered. I wanted to verify this recent transaction on my daughter's card, I said. Of course. May I have the first 6 and last 4 digits of the card number and your relationship to the account holder? Billy asked. I gave him the details, explaining I'm her mother. She passed away 2 years ago, and I've been managing her remaining accounts. There was a pause on the line, and then Billy spoke carefully. I'm very sorry to hear that, Mom. I don't see a transaction on this card. The one you're talking about has been made using a virtual card linked to the account. A virtual card? I asked, frowning. But I never linked one to this account. How can a virtual card be active when I have the physical card here? Virtual cards are separate from the physical card so they can continue to function independently unless deactivated. Would you like me to cancel the virtual card for you? Billy asked gently. No, I managed to speak. I didn't want to cancel the card thinking Monica must have activated it when she was alive. Please leave it active. Could you tell me when the virtual card was created? There was a pause as he checked. It was activated a week before the date you mentioned your daughter passed. I felt a chill run down my spine. Thank you, Billy. That'll be all for now. Then I called my closest friend Ella. I told her about the strange letter and the transaction on Monica's card. That's impossible, Ella gasped. Could it be a mistake? It's like someone wants me to believe Monica and Stefan are out there somewhere, just hiding. But why would anyone do that? The charge wasn't large. It was just $23.50 at a local coffee shop. Part of me wanted to visit the shop and find out more about the transaction, but part of me was afraid I'd find out something I wasn't supposed to know. I thought I'd look into this matter on the weekend, but what happened on Saturday turned my world upside down. Andy and Peter wanted to go to the beach on Saturday, so I took them there. Ella had agreed to meet us there to help me look after the kids. The ocean breeze carried the salt spray as the children splashed in the shallow waves, their laughter echoing across the sand. It was the first time in ages I'd heard them so carefree. Ella lounged on her beach towel beside me, both of us watching the kids play. I was showing her the anonymous letter when I heard Andy shout. Grandma, look, he grabbed Peter's hand, pointing toward the beachfront cafe. That's our mom and dad. My heart stopped. There, barely 30 feet away, sat a woman with Monica's dyed hair and graceful posture, leaning toward a man who could easily have been Stefan's twin. They were sharing a plate of fresh fruit. Please, watch them for a bit, I said to Ella, urgency making my voice crack. She agreed without question, though concern filled her eyes. I don't go anywhere, I told the boys. You can sunbathe here. Stay close to Ella, okay? The kids nodded, and I turned toward the couple in the cafe. My heart skipped a beat as they stood and walked down a narrow path lined with sea oats and wild roses. My feet moved of their own accord, following at a distance. They walked close together, whispering and occasionally laughing. The woman tucked her hair behind her ear exactly like Monica always had. The man had Stefan's slight limp from his college football injury. Then I heard them talk. It's risky, but we had no choice. Emily, the man said. Emily? I thought, why is he calling her Emily? They turned down a shell-lined path toward a cottage covered in flowering grapevines. I know, the woman sighed, but I miss them, especially the boys. I gripped the wooden fence surrounding the cottage, my knuckles white. It is you, I thought, but why? Why would you do this? Once they went inside the cottage, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. The dispatcher listened patiently as I explained the impossible situation. I stayed by the fence and listened for more proof. I couldn't believe what was happening. Finally, gathering every ounce of courage I possessed, I approached the cottage door and rang the doorbell. For a moment there was silence, then footsteps approached. The door swung open and there stood my daughter. Her face drained of color as she recognized me. Mom? She gasped. What? How did you find us? Before I could respond, Stefan appeared behind her. Then, the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. How could you? My voice trembled with rage and grief. How could you leave your own children behind? Do you have any idea what you put us through? The police cars pulled up and 2 officers approached quickly but cautiously. I think we'll need to ask some questions, one said, looking between us. This is not something we see every day. Monica and Stefan, who had changed their names to Emily and Anthony, spilled out their story in bits and pieces. It wasn't supposed to be like this, Monica said, her voice wavering. We were drowning, you know. The debts, the loan sharks, they kept coming, demanding more. We tried everything, but it just got worse. Stefan sighed. They didn't just want money. They were threatening us, and we didn't want to drag the kids into the mess we created. Monica continued, tears trickling down her cheeks. We thought if we left, we'd be giving the kids a better, more stable life. We thought they'd be better off without us. Leaving them behind was the hardest thing we ever did. They confessed that they had staged the accident to look like they'd fallen off a cliff into the river, hoping the police would soon stop searching and they'd be presumed dead. They explained how they moved to another town to start fresh and had even changed their names. But I couldn't stop thinking about my babies, Monica admitted. I needed to see them, so we rented this cottage for a week, just to be close to them. My heart broke as I listened to their story, but anger simmered beneath my sympathy. I couldn't help but believe there had to be a better way to deal with the loan sharks. Once they confessed everything, I texted Ella our location, and soon her car pulled up with Andy and Peter. The children burst out, and their faces lit up with joy as they recognized their parents. Mom, Dad, they shouted, running toward their parents. You're here. We knew you'd come back. Monica looked at them, and tears welled up in her eyes. She was meeting her kids after 2 years. Oh, my sweet boys, I missed you so much. I'm so sorry, she said, hugging them. I watched the scene unfold, whispering to myself, but at what cost, Monica? What have you done? The police allowed the brief reunion before pulling Monica and Stephen aside. The senior officer turned to me with sympathy in his eyes. I'm sorry, ma'am, but they could face some serious charges here. They've broken a lot of laws. And my grandchildren? I asked, watching Andy and Peter's confused faces as their parents were separated from them again. How do I explain any of this to them? They're just kids. That's something you'll have to decide, he said gently. But the truth is bound to come out eventually. Later that night, after tucking the children into bed, I sat alone in my living room. The anonymous letter lay on the coffee table before me, its message now holding a different kind of weight. I picked it up, reading those 5 words one more time. They're not really gone. I still didn't know who had sent it, but they were right. Monica and Stefan weren't gone. They'd chosen to leave. And somehow, that felt worse than knowing they weren't alive. I don't know if I can protect the kids from the sadness, I whispered to the quiet room, but I'll do whatever it takes to keep them safe. Now, I sometimes feel I shouldn't have called the cops. Part of me thinks I could have let my daughter live the life she wanted, but part of me wanted her to realize what she did was wrong. Do you think I did the right thing by calling the cops? What would you have done if you were in my place?